Super Space Galaxy was inspired by the original Tyrian, and yes, it does use its graphics, and yes, those graphics were made freely available by Daniel Cook. One of the things that I enjoyed about Tyrian was the huge number of weapons you could find. You could see yourself shooting them in the upgrade screen. They looked cool coming out, but only a few, like the Zika laser, were really viable long term. As so often happens in these things, there's a giddy period of experimentation, but sooner or later that fun funnels down into using a few of the best and most viable weapons. This is one of the things I've tried to fix for Super Space Galaxy. Firstly, I've avoided the problem of using the best weapons all the time just by making you collect weapons you find out there in the world. You never know what you'll find, so even if there is a most viable weapon, you can't guarantee that it's what you're going to be using. My other move was to make all the weapons relatively sensible. Unlike Tyrian, where weapons might shoot out to the sides or in all sorts of directions, I realized from playing Tyrian that weapons that shoot straight forward and have focused damage tend to be the best. Another thing I did was just make sure that no weapon glaringly sucked. Originally, the Plasma Globes weapon did suck, as early reviews attested, but I fixed it by making the balls smarter, and now it doesn't suck, and it may actually be one of the best weapons. And obviously enough, if you've come up with a weapon idea, but it's just this other weapon but more powerful, that's not a new idea. More power is something the players are likely to be interested in, but as the designer, it's really your job to distribute and proportion out that power. My game was always intended to have a large array of different weapons, and to make this fun and viable, you need to follow a few principles. If there's one weapon that's more powerful than the others, you could ruin the entire arsenal, so I made all of them have approximately the same power. Some, like the Trident that shoots multiple projectiles out like that, it does a little bit more damage, but I made sure there was nothing too exploitable in there. You also have to make sure that each weapon really does fill its own niche, both visually and in how it works. If you've designed a weapon and it's the same as another weapon but a different colour, that's probably not interesting enough. I also had a rule that weapons shouldn't be too gimmicky. It's easy enough to get interested in wacky ideas like a weapon that shoots backwards, or a weapon that shoots sideways, or a weapon that only shoots on a Tuesday if you're looking for originality. But actually, most people want pretty straightforward weapons that shoot out the front of your ship, shoot where you're looking, and don't challenge the status quo too much. The devil is in the details with weapons, rather than trying to make some broad new wacky idea. Another big principle I'm very aware of is the notion that concentrating your damage is better. If you've got a weapon that has a given amount of power, you're better off focusing that damage on one enemy at a time to remove them from play. If you had a weapon and it was just spreading its damage over all the enemies, they effectively survive for the whole battle until the end. But if you focus on one enemy at a time with the same amount of power, they die one after another, and you effectively minimize your risk by about half. For that reason, I was very timid about making weapons that spread their damage out, because I knew that could easily make them less viable. Another advantage of my approach is that if you make sure all the weapons are relatively sensible and have similar amounts of power, players can start choosing their weapons based on aesthetics rather than just which one is the best one. I'm hoping that players will enjoy collecting weapons and funneling down a build like a ship that shoots just flame weapons, or a ship that shoots nothing but bulls or something, or a ship that shoots all red stuff, just whatever they think looks cool, and maybe have different setups for different games. I should say, my reasoning around this was based on the idea of having a large selection of weapons, all of which have infinite ammo. If you have a few different weapons and there's different ammo for each one, like in Doom, different rules apply. It's perfectly okay to have an overpowered shotgun, like in Doom 2, if each weapon has different ammo types. Even in Doom, I think funneling you into using the super shotgun most of the time was a bit of a mistake, really. I think, as a rule, games are better when you have a few different, distinct weapons, and you're encouraged on some level to swap between them for different situations. It might vary a little bit based on which game, but as a rule, I think that's it. That's just a few things about how I designed the weapons for Super Space Galaxy. It's already something I've written a couple of blog posts about, so it's likely I'll make another video about this, about how I came up with more weapon ideas and all sorts of things. So stay tuned for more weapon videos. Most indie game devs never finish their game. Why? No structure, no accountability, and no support. That's why I'm opening 5 private coaching spots to help devs get unstuck and finally finish their game. Message me game plan in my Discord and let's chat.